Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Ready in Minutes workout. We're calling today's workout a slow burn because that's exactly what it is. You're gonna use tempo to increase intensity and time under tension. To do this effectively, you're more or less going to be focusing on the lowering portion of the lift or the eccentric. So in 4 out of 5 steps in the sequence, we're going to lift the way we normally do, same cadence. We're going to pause for 1 second at the peak, and then we are going to lower for 3 seconds. So if I had to scheme it out, 0, 1, 3, 0 seconds for the lift, 1 second for a pause, 3 seconds for the lowering portion. Using tempo is a great way to build strength if you're not quite ready for the next level or next weight, and if you want to squeeze a little bit more out of the weight that you're currently working on. So provided that you can do this safely, you can do this with any lift. I know that might sound a little complex, so let me put it into practice so I can show you what I mean. All right, so nothing too fancy or complicated here. Everything here is a lift that is accessible to basically all levels, with the one exception being the overhead lunge, and if you can't do that, I have a regression for you. So this time around, I'm not gonna go too in-depth into cueing on technique, but rather how you wanna apply tempo to each of these lifts. So let's take it from the top. All right, so you're gonna be opening up with your single arm rack squat. So the first thing you wanna do is get into the rack position. Once you're here, you're nice and stable with a vertical rack, get into your squat stance. And you want to think about a 3-second lowering down to the bottom. Then once you're here, count 1 Mississippi to yourself in your head or out loud and make your way back up, squeeze your glutes. Again, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. We hit our pause for 1 Mississippi, squeeze our butt at the top. Once we're done here, we're gonna clean down and start with our bent over row. So set up for your bent over row, you're over the bell, hinge over, and pull to the side pocket. Now you're gonna pull with the normal tempo, so 1 second or 0 seconds. You're going to squeeze at the top for 1 Mississippi and then lower for 1, 2, 3. Repeat again, pull to the top, squeeze 1 Mississippi, and then 1 and 2 and 3. I like to use Mississippi, but that's not everybody's cup of tea. So if you want to do 1 100, 2 100, however you can count that second in your head, that's how you want to do it. Whatever works for you to count that second or seconds, use it so you can match your tempo. All right, so next up, we've got our offset single leg deadlift. So if we're picking up on the right hand, that means the right leg is kicking back and the left leg stays planted on the ground. So once you're stable here, push through the heel and count 1 and 2 and 3. Pause for 1 second at the bottom and then make your way back up. You need a fair amount of stability to be able to do this exercise. So if this is currently out of reach and you find that you're wobbling all over the place, you can utilize a kickstand, planting your toe down on the ground, not too far back, to control your hinge a little bit more and provide support, and then do the tempo the same way you normally would. Next up for the overhead press, it's a little different. We are going to do a slow tempo up and a slow tempo on the way down. Why? Because I love making overhead pressing as hard as possible. No, but in all seriousness, shoulders are the #1 joint injury site in the body, and an iffy overhead press can contribute heavily to that. So as you control your tempo up and on the way back down, you're plotting a better course for your overhead press when you do it with your normal tempo. So let's start by setting up into the rack. We're nice and stable, and we're gonna count our Mississippis or our 1 100 on the way up, and 2 and 3, and then down for 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and 3. And again for 1 100, 2 100, 3 100. Yeah, that's a lot less natural. And then down for 1 100, 2 100, 3 100. Whatever cue you want to use, that's your cue. Just try to make sure that it times out to about a second. All right, so lastly, we've got our overhead alternating reverse lunge. So we're going to send the bell up. We're going to take a big step back and lower down for 1 and 2 and 3. Pause, don't hit the ground. Make your way back up and repeat on the other leg. Slowly lowering down, stabilizing, and making your way back to the top. Now, for those of you that might find this a little too challenging from a mobility perspective, we can guide back down to the rack and do the same exact thing. So big step back, and 1 and 2 and 3. Back up, and 1 and 2 and 3. Once you're done, clean down to the ground for the finish. If holding the bell overhead isn't right for you, don't force it, because one of the worst things you can do is try to force strength when there's a lack of mobility, stability, or both. The good news is that in 99% of cases, if you have an arm, you can build the overhead mobility, but do not try to force too much too soon. You can build up towards it and then be able to do it. Meet yourself and your ability where you're at right now and work up from there. All right, so that's it for my cues for today. So now let's do it together 2 times to each side with tempo. All right, so side 1 of round 1. Let's clean into our rack and start with our squats. Now, I'm not gonna count the tempo out because this is gonna get pretty annoying pretty fast if I do that. So I'm gonna trust you to do that. Just match my tempo in your head. And that's 1. 2. 4. And 5. All right, let's clean down to the ground and do our rows. Set up over the bell, pull to the side pocket, normal speed, squeeze for 1 second, and then 3 seconds back down. That's 1. 2. And 5. All right, put the bell down, shake it off. Next up are our single leg deadlifts. So if you don't have the stability, use the kickstand. I'm gonna kick my leg back for this one, but do what's right for you. 4. And 5. All right, down to the ground. Let's clean it into the rack and do our overhead presses. 2 to 3 seconds on the way up, 2 to 3 seconds on the way down. And 1. 2. 3. And last one. All right, next up, our alternating overhead reverse lunges. So it's overhead, take a big step back, nice slow tempo down, pause above the ground, make your way back up. 1. All right, bring it down to the ground. It's the end of side 1. Let's jump right into side 2. All right, second side. Let's open up with our squats. Let's get into the rack. Set up into your squat stance. And nice slow tempo down. Pause for 1 second and make your way back up. 2. 3. 4. 5. All right, let's clean down to the ground and do our rows. Set up over the bell and pull, squeeze, and lower. And 5. All right, let's shake it off and set up for our single leg deadlifts, offset. So pick up in the left hand, the left leg is kicking back, the right leg stays on the ground. Three. 4. 5. All right, down to the ground. Let's clean into the rack. 2 to 3 seconds up, 2 to 3 seconds down. And 2. And 3. And 4. And last one. All right, send it back overhead. Take a big step back. Soft landing, hover over the ground. Up. All right, got it back to the rack and down to the ground. All right, that's halfway through. Take a quick break if you need to, and then it's back to the first side. Okay guys, round two, we're back to our first side. Let's open up with our squats. In your stance and nice and slow. Pause, squeeze your glutes at the top. And 5. All right, let's clean down to the ground. Set up for our row. Get over the bell, pull, squeeze, and then lower slowly down to the ground. All right, let's set up for our single leg deadlift. You know what, this time I'm gonna do the regression. So for the kickstand, let's pick the bell up and we're gonna set the foot up just a little bit behind the planted foot, right? This is our kickstand or support leg. You can see it's maybe 1 foot's distance from the front foot. We're gonna have the bell in line with this front leg, and we're going to hinge on over, pause for a second, and make our way back to the top. The back leg should give you all the support you need if you feel like you're falling over when you do a full single leg deadlift. And 5. All right, down to the ground. Overhead press, no regressions here, all tempo. Just 1. Three. And last one. All right, this time, instead of sending the bell overhead, let's do the regression for the alternating reverse lunge. I'm gonna stay in the rack, take a big step back, slow descent, hover above the ground for a second, and make your way back up. Four. 5. 6. All right, clean down to the ground. One side left, guys. Let's finish strong. All right, here we go. Last sequence of the day. Let's set up for our squats. Hinge on over, tilt the bell, hike into the rack. Set up for your squat. And nice and slow on the way down. Pause, make your way back up. Three. 4. And 5. All right, let's clean down to the ground. Set up for our row. Core over the bell, pull to the side pocket, squeeze and lower for 3 seconds. 3. That's 4. And this is 5. All right, shake it off. Set up for our single leg deadlift or kickstand deadlift. I'm gonna do the kickstand again. I enjoyed it so much last time. All right, so just about 1 foot's distance behind the front foot. Plant the toe down, get the belt in line with that front leg, chest even, and hinge on over. Pause, and back up. Four, and last one. 5. All right, down to the ground. Shake it off real quick. Clean into the rack. 2 to 3 seconds up, 2 to 3 seconds down for 5 reps. That's 2. That's 4, and this is your last one. All right, let's keep it in the rack. Take a big step back, nice and slow descent, hover above the ground, make your way back up. This is 5. And this is your last one. All right, down to the ground for the finish. Great job, guys. As you probably know by now, it's much harder than it looks. All right, everyone, great job making it through. Tempo work can really add up. And even with light weight, if you do it just right or increase the tempo, the difficulty spikes up a lot. So as I mentioned before, use it if you're trying to get more control over a certain lift or if you're trying to clean up your form. It's also a great tool to use if you're at a current weight and you can't quite jump to the next level, but you want to squeeze a little bit more out of the weight that you're currently working with. It could actually be the variable you need to jump to the next level. So as always, guys, have fun with it. Let me know what you love or hate about it. Keep yourself honest with your tempo when you do this so you can get the most out of it. Okay, that's it for this time. I'll see you guys real soon on the next one. Stay strong.